Is Ryan Day, Michigan, the new Phillip Fulmer, Alabama? I think I know where you're going with this, but I thought I would let this one flow. Why?
So, who's been covering the saga over the weekend? It's just been epic.
Are we talking about the sign stealing?
The sign stealing scandal regarding Michigan.
Yes.
Michigan says they have. So, for those, just for a refresher, Michigan says they have documents. This came out on Friday that Ohio State was behind the leaking of information that revealed Michigan was behind the sign stealing. Now Michigan is coming out and saying there's other documents that prove they're not the only team that sign steals and a bunch of other teams sign steal. So Michigan's decided, okay, y'all come for us. We're going to go nuclear on y'all. The suggestions are that this is great. The information, it is suggested, either came from Ryan Day, an associate of Ryan Day, possibly a family member of Ryan Day. However, there is suspicion that this information was leaked to Michigan by Zach Wilson. Remember the guy that got Urban Meyer fired? Or not fired, excuse me. That basically is why Urban Meyer resigned and ran, because he was covering for Zach Wilson, beating up his wife and all of that, lovely things that Ohio State does.
Other than that, he was a great individual.
An incredible individual, yes. And sadly, that's not the worst scandal of Big Ten football teams the past 15 years, but it's like not even top 5 that they had a domestic abuser as an assistant coach on their team. But
so you're saying essentially that Phillip Fulmer turned in Alabama for cheating, and you're going all the way back to the Albert Means scandal?
Yes, and I'm saying Fulmer turned in Alabama for cheating. And Alabama fans forever were vitriolic towards Fulmer. And Fulmer did it by secretly recording. You remember he recorded the conversation he had with the Treasant football coach, right? That's how he got Alabama call.
Yes. And and he was very proactive. I've read the letters. He definitely thought that Alabama was cheating. I wouldn't even feel comfortable reciting, paraphrasing some of the things that I read. That he didn't realize those were public records since they went to the SEC. If you would like to, you can file a Freedom of Information Act right now, and you can read the letters yourself from the University of Tennessee. I'll provide a link right below. No, I won't. But you really can. So, I don't know if Ryan Day's involved in trying to hurt Michigan. If I had a bet between Michigan's better because Michigan's cheating a little bit, because it's so razor thin, the winning, who's going to win, who's going to not, or somebody is churning them information, I'd have to take a little bit of both, but 70-30 of they're better because they're cheating. I think cheating in this regard is a big deal. Sometimes I don't. Don't you?
Yes, and I didn't think it initially, but I did kind of think it now because, again, college football is more unique than other sports. Coaches, like in the NFL, sign stealing is common and in high school, but coaches in college football don't have as much time to do as much scheming as in other leagues because of recruiting. So they can't just get their players to change their signs on a dime at halftime if the signs have all been stolen. And I think that's kind of where this is at.
Well, and in football, even if you win a half, because you're stuck with those sets of signs.
A half, it can get out of hand in a half.
I mean, you can win it in a half. So before you can change your signs, even if you wanted to at halftime, or so that can flip things all together. Do you remember the Peach Bowl in the early 2000s with Clemson and Tennessee?
Yes, I do. I was at that game.
Was it you that brought up that was possibly a sign stealing game to me?
I did not, but I remember how confused Tennessee's defense was in that game. Okay. Consistently. What, you think Clemson got a hold of their signs?
Somebody brought that up to me recently, as that game in particular. So he just said to me, I thought it was you, said to me that I always wondered about that game in particular. I'm not blaming Clemson. Nobody's reporting nothing, but he said that game always had a weird, funny thing.
I thought Tennessee wasn't happy. Tennessee didn't care to be in that game because they thought they deserved a BCS Bowl.
That's what I think too. I'm just telling you what this guy brought up. I think that was a case of a team didn't want to be there, which is what it is. Yes. And what 90% of whether or not you want to be there in a bowl game determines who wins and loses.
The only player who didn't go home for the holidays in that game was Casey Clausen because it was his last game and he played his heart out in that one, but nobody else played for him. And so that was sad to see. That was the saddest part of that game is you watch Casey Clausen just fighting his tail off and nobody else was playing for him in that one. But I will say that, so with the Ryan Day one, look, I mean, if he one there one of the allegations are that Ohio State possibly had somebody hack Michigan's computers, which is a federal offense. Which is why my joke on this is like Ohio State may have broken a federal law to catch a team breaking an NCAA law, that's like college football.
Well, I mean, but and I know it's a civil suit, and you know that. But Philip Fulmer didn't go to the state of Alabama for SEC Media Days.
He didn't.
That was one bizarro year. And then
Alabama was trying to subpoena him, but the lawsuit in Alabama was totally petty by the state of Alabama on that. Because like they were trying to use the state to get him in trouble, and it was pretty pathetic. I mean, and remember the evidence with the scene was they had a guy named the guy's name was Kenny Smith, right? Who went to Tennessee and Fulmer dismissed him from the team. And Kenny Smith like was a totally not credible witness at all. And
so but the originator, the thing that was stuck in the craw the most was the Albert Mean situation.
Yes. Well, no, but Kenny Smith was a star witness because after he got dismissed from the team he basically was trying to tell people that Fulmer and boosters were behind paying him to go to Tennessee. But it's like, obviously this is an axe to grind kid who, didn't make it at Tennessee. Now do I think there was some shady stuff going on with Tennessee? Yes. I remember the week of the Auburn game in 99 was they were being investigated for academic fraud. And most of us believe, I think you do too, Dave, that the reason Fulmer turned in Alabama was because he was trying to get the NCAA off his back for the academic fraud investigation that was happening. And I don't deny that. But at the same time, what needs to be said is Tennessee wasn't the only school complaining about Alabama during that time. Steve Spurrier sent how many letters to the SEC complaining about Alabama cheating at that time? It was like 3, I think.
Yeah, that was a collective. I mean, that was Florida, that was Georgia, that was everybody who was trying to turn turn Alabama in. Tennessee was definitely one of those. Tennessee used, of what I'm aware of, I didn't read every single letter to the SEC, but he was definitely used the strongest language.
Yes, and Fulmer used the most effective way to get Alabama.
Strongest language. I mean, the possible strongest language you could have possibly used in a letter to someone else.
Yeah, and as we know, Fulmer probably used the most effective way to have Alabama dead to right. Like, it's one of those that there was a ton of smoke, but Fulmer was the one who got the fire. And that's why Alabama was upset. I think that's the case with Ohio State and Michigan. Don't you? Even if Ryan Day turned in Michigan, I think a bunch of teams were complaining about it. Don't you think a bunch of teams were suspicious of this? And Ohio State may have just gotten the smoking gun. Now, the catch is, technically, how Ohio State got it may have been illegal by hacking a computer, whereas Fulmer secretly recording somebody against their knowledge wasn't illegal because Tennessee is one-party consent state, that's where that whole thing is hilarious. Had Fulmer done that in Maryland, he would have gone to prison for 30 days. That's the whole, remember Linda Tripp, Monica Lewinsky thing, when Linda Tripp recorded Monica Lewinsky and Monica Lewinsky didn't know. And
that's a place we didn't think we'd be on this. Talking
but that's why Linda Tripp went to Lewinsky. And so, yeah, Fulmer secretly recorded the Trezevant head coach, I think it was a Trezevant head coach, or maybe it was somebody else shopping Albert Means, I forget. But yes, with Ryan Day, the worst allegations are they may have illegally hacked Michigan somehow, which is a federal crime. So also, because here's why it's really bad, Dave. This is where you could really take it somewhere. The University of Michigan has a strong engineering program, does a lot of work with the Defense Department. So you could legitimately say you hacked American secrets and compromise our national security trying to catch Michigan cheating.
Yeah. There you go. Mead Drinker says, wasn't there something with Juicy Locke, Eric Locke? His dad was named Juicy. So yes, there was something with Juicy as well. Juicy Locke. He was he wanted Eric to play more. I know that's a surprise that in college football you would think one parent was biased over his kid and wants him to play more, but that happens a lot.
Wait, are you telling me that? Are you telling me that that's what Craig James was doing to Mike Leach?
Yes, there maybe is a family with the last name Mawson that thinks that a guy with the last name not that doesn't rhyme with anything. Rick Clausen probably thinks that should have played a little bit more because of that.